Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to Dutchman Plays Medieval Blacksmith. People really liked the first couple of videos. They were excited to see more. So we're absolutely going to put that together for everyone today. And if I click continue here, you're going to see something a little bit special. Long story short, I reset my entire game. I started completely over, fresh save, brand new start. The reason being, I learned a lot over the past couple of days, experimenting with different sword shapes, ways to make money easily, so on and so forth. And I found out that we basically wasted all of our time the first couple of days, not knowing what we're doing. So this guide is sort of gonna break it into pieces, how to absolutely destroy this game within just one day. But to start off, we're going to have to go through a whole bunch of math to explain things. This guy can wait. If we need to reload the day, we'll go ahead and do that. Oh, by the way, let me just show this real quick. This is day, 3. Our shop is completely, fully upgraded. We've expanded the backyard to have torches so you can see at night. Nice little artistic overhangs which functionally do nothing but make the place look better. There's an upstairs with bedrooms for the kids. Yeah, this place is pretty kitted out. We've got 3 full racks for selling. Only 1 for storage apparently, but anyways. If you look in the upper right, you can see that we have 34k gold, and that green bar is our total progress to our first rent. We are nowhere even close, and we have enough to pay rent and also upgrade our complete house all the way to the maximum. So how do we get here? First off, to explain how to make a profitable sword, or at least a valuable sword, we need to go over how to increase the value of our weapons, right? As you're putting things together, start with your pommel, your handle, your guard. Throw some blade pieces in there, and a point. And this is like the most basic dagger you can make, which is worth 146. But what pieces are adding what value to the weapon? Is it the amount of wood you use? Is it just based off of the weight? If you start with a fully built dagger, it's kind of hard to see what pieces are doing what. So we're going to test it by taking all this off, and we're going to start with the blade. If we were able to just sell air to people, it'd be worth 20 copper. If I add a single blade piece to my air, it is now worth 28. So we have either added a flat value of 8, or added 40% of 20. Right. 40% of 20 is equal to 8. We also just literally added 8. So to find out which of those is true, we have to add another piece. The second piece has added another 8. 40% of 28 is probably 8 plus 2, right? So 10. But we didn't increase by 10, we increased by 8. Which makes us think that every single blade piece is just going to add a flat value of 8. This is once again proven true, as we've added another 8. And this pattern is going to continue for quite a while, until you get to right about... Going a little bit quicker. Here. Here, instead of adding 8, it's added 9. Which doesn't break our pattern, it just means that perhaps there was some weird floating decimal, an invisible decimal that turned our 8 into a 9 once we had enough pieces on the board. But, okay, so every single blade piece we add, or at least blade 0, is going to add 8 to our sword, right? Is this true for all the other shapes? For no particular reason, I'm going to go down blade 29 here. And this piece also adds 8. adds another 8, adds another 8, adds another 8. So no matter which blade piece we're using, it's roughly going to add 8 until you get to, like, that weird breaking point. Okay, well, if the blade adds 8, the blade point will probably add 8 as well, right? You can see that verified. The blade point also doesn't matter. And if the blade and the blade point are adding flat values to our weapon cell value, then to maximize value, all we have to do is just add more pieces. Every single one of these is going to increase our value until you reach the maximum. You're not going to get much better than that. Not much more value than that. So, to explain how the guard and the pommel add value, given the fact that they don't add anything on their own, we can assume there's some kind of multiplication going on, right? Anything times 0 is going to be 0. So if these are multipliers onto our value, there's nothing to multiply by yet, as long as it's not multiplying by this base, right? The way to test this, we're going to go ahead and make a full-length blade. Go ahead and slap a point on there too. We're at 197, so let's see how the guard modifies 197. It brings us right to 300. Take it off, put it back on. We can do 300 divided by 197, since we're assuming this is multiplication. And that's going to give us 1.52. In other words, this is adding roughly 50% to the value. The pommel, or the guard here. If I switch through them, you can see it stays roughly consistent. So, just based on the guard alone, we're getting almost a 50% increase on what the sword is worth based on its flat pieces. Okay, well, how does the handle or the pommel help? We get almost identical results. 298, 300 over there, back to 298. So the pommel and the guard are both acting as a 1.5 multiplier, roughly. Obviously, some of them are worth a full 1.5, some that are 1.52. But generally speaking, your pommel and your guard are going to multiply your value. And adding 50%, we would expect 450-ish from the guard here. And you see that that is roughly true. Roughly, right? There's probably some decimal points floating about in there that are giving us a little bit of extra. What does the handle do? The handle is going to work a lot like the blade pieces, where it's adding a flat value to it. But it doesn't add a whole lot, right? Even with all of our multipliers on, these 4 pieces added like maybe 3 gold. 4 gold now. 5. So adding more wood really doesn't affect the value of the sword too much. Your base value for your sword is going to be the number of blade pieces times 8, plus the number of handle pieces times 0.1, we'll call it, just to be generous, times 1.5 times 1.5. Quenching is also going to add another 50%. Go back to our full-length blade here. Does that give us a nice round number? The guard put us to 300. Pommel put us 450-ish. If I add quenching, that's another 50%. 455 times 1.5. 6 something? Whoa, that's a huge increase. That's like times 3, almost. Well, what's 1.5 to the third, huh? It's 3.375. What if I took the pommel and guard off? Is this better? 197, 298. You can see we're adding that 50% again. So we must be getting like stacking multipliers, putting on a pommel and a guard. Yeah, that was a good example. Look, we're at 602. So it's times 2. So the quenching is actually the times 2 multiplier. No, it ain't. It's times 3. I'm losing my mind, chat. I literally did all this math already. Why is it not working now? So to find out what the quenching does, we're just going to assemble a full-length blade here. Put a point on it, doesn't really matter which. We're at 197. We turn on the quenching, it goes to 298. So we're adding roughly 50% to it. Another 1.5 times multiplier. So if we add everything together, we got way more than just... Well, we got stacking 50% multipliers, so that brings us to a total value of 1216. With a production cost of 9 and a total weight of 1.39. Now that we understand how all the pieces contribute to the value of the sword, the next thing we need to do is make the most efficient sword we can to minimize our production cost, right? This sword is going to cost roughly 1200, regardless of what pieces I use. I'll just take out a couple blade pieces, slap in some random ones. And you see we still made it to 1200 because it's the number of pieces in the sword multiplied by our multipliers, right? If that's the case, then the shape of our blade isn't going to affect our final value, but it will affect how much our sword weighs, and directly from that, how many materials we need to use. As I hover over this, you can see all the stats for it. It has a total weight of 1, but it's not adding 1 whole kilogram. It's a weight multiplier, once again. Somehow 1 is equal to 0.06, but then not 0.06 is 0.05 there. That was another 0.06, and 0.06 again. So some percentage from 5 to 6, right? In order to make the most efficient blade we can, we need to reduce the weight, because we know that no matter what pieces we're using, we're going to reach that 1200-ish value. So we go through this list, one by one, and find which one has the smallest total weight modifier. I'm going to save you all the effort. I've already done this before. It's this one right down here. Blade 29 has 0.46 for its total weight modifier. I'm going to go ahead and fill out my blade with that. And you can see we're at 0.53 kilograms. The lightest blade point is 0.1 here at 0.57. The smallest guard is guard 24 with 0.1. The pommel. Smallest pommel is number 6 here, 0.18. And then the handle, the smallest handle we can make is 3 pieces. So this is the lightest sword possible to make that maximizes the value out at 1200. Quenching is a must-have, of course. And the wood, the type of wood doesn't add too much to the value, but it does alter the weight quite a bit. But as far as smelting goes, it's only the weight of the metal that matters, right? I'm not putting wood into my ore bucket and melting it down. So this is the metal weight of the most profitable sword you can make. And to know how many chunks of ore that's going to take, we're now going to have to get into some math. The game starts you off with this Weaponsmith handbook on your starting weapon design desk. And in here, it has a table of all the ore types in the game, including the, what are they called? Alloy. All the alloy ores. These are all your base ores. You can buy these in the marketplaces. These are all alloys created by smelting various amounts of ores together. And in fact, the recipe for each of these ores is also in the starting handbook. The very back page has all the ores and their components. How does that help us? Well, you can see the density here is in kilograms per cubic meter. Iron ore has a density of 7,874 kilograms per cubic meter. A quick Google search shows that 1 cubic meter is equal to 1,000 liters. Okay? Well, liters are a liquid measure. And once melted down, my metal becomes liquid. Let me go ahead and put this together real quick and show you. I am taking 1 iron ore into my bucket. That should do it. We're not going to use this, we're just going to demonstrate our proof of concept. So here you can see I'm putting 1 iron ore chunk into the furnace. We're gonna wait for it to melt real quick. Shouldn't take too long. There we go. I'm gonna pull this out of there. I'm just gonna drop the bucket on the ground so we can look at it. We got 0.1 liters of liquid out of a single ore chunk. If we head back to our calculations, so to find out how many kilograms we get out of a single ore chunk, we're going to take our density, we're going to divide it by 1,000. Because 1 cubic meter is equal to 1,000 liters. And then we're going to multiply it further by 0.1 liter per ore. The meter cubed will cancel. The liters will cancel. And you're left with kilograms per ore of 0.7874. Now, because the ratio of cubic meters to liters is constant, because the ratio of liters to ore is also constant, we can actually convert every single one of these ores and alloys into kilogram per ore to see if we are to see how many ore chunks it will take to make any specific weapon. I have it written down on my notebook here. 0.7874 kilograms per ore for iron, which we are using. The weight of the metal here is 0.67 kilograms. So we should have this entire blade created with 1 ore chunk. Let's go ahead and test that theory. I've already got my ore melting here. I'm not going to sell this weapon. This is all just proof of concept. It's probably solid by now because we took so long. We'll remelt this. So just a quick reminder, this is 1 ore chunk in here. We're going to see if we can make the entirety of this weapon using this. I start with a main ingot and make sure I'm just pouring very efficiently. The guard and the pommel are very light on material. So I've got all 3 pieces created with 1 ingot, 1 ore chunk I should say, and I still have 0.01 liters remaining. It's close, but you absolutely can make this entire sword with 1 chunk of ore. Well, that's perfect then, you say. If this entire sword is worth this takes 1 chunk of ore to make, then I can take this sell value, subtract the minimum production cost, and that will tell you what your profit per sword is going to be. I think I have to reset here because I'm currently working on a design. So 1209 minus 5, that's 1204. You've got a profit return of roughly like 200. Very, very good. If I switch to a different ore though, for example, gold sells for the most. This is a 6k sword, but it costs 2,700 to buy the ore. I'm only getting a return of like 2 to 1 on this. That's not very profitable. 2 to 1 versus 200 to 1. The ideal strategy would be to mass produce these iron swords, sell them for the maximum return on your investment, and then just kind of slowly make your way up. But what if I told you there's an easier way, a faster way? If I could get gold for free, well then my profit becomes much better. We'll assume the minimum production cost. If we could get our ores for free, we'll just set it to 1. Right? The cost of our time, right? Well, this is now 1208, and this value is 5964. We're going way up there. Is it possible to get free gold? In the next episode, I will tell you how to get free gold so that you can get all your dreams accomplished in just a couple days of Blacksmith. Anyways, that's going to be it for this episode. Thanks everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please click the like and subscribe button. It really helps small channels like this one grow and reach a wider audience. And I hope you have a good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Goodbye.